Okay.
Oh,
Who are
okay.
you?
My name's Jim Witcher. I'm a geologist, and I've worked in the southwestern U.S. with geothermal energy for probably 30 plus years. Until I guess probably 2005, I worked at New Mexico State University over in engineering college for a institute over there, and we studied renewable energy. It was applied research that we did. And one of the projects I had over the years when I was there was the greenhouse, geothermal greenhouse that we're going to visit today. And I'm currently a consulting geologist out of Las Cruces, and I do geothermal and groundwater work. And I currently have a drilling rig going in Arizona, and we're drilling a geothermal well to heat a 7.5 acre tomato greenhouse north of Wilcox, Arizona. And I'll be going over there later this afternoon. We've been running casing to 3,000 feet. We're going to cement that tonight or in the morning. We'll see how fast the drillers can run that in the hole and weld it. The reason we stopped right here is I'd like to just give you a real quick introduction to some of the geology and some of the rocks that are important here. And the first rock that I want to point out to you is this kind of purplish stuff that's got the whitish boulders floating in it. And this forms an aquitard, and an aquitard is a geologic unit that inhibits water flow or forms a cap rock over a reservoir. And this unit is Eocene age. It's a volcanic mud flow, and its source area was from the Donyana Mountains over here. At that time, say 36, 34 million years ago, there was a large stratovolcano, kind of like Mount St. Helens. And so this would be a volcanic mud flow that was shed off of that volcano. And right here it's about 700 to 800 feet thick, and over here it's probably around 650 to 700 feet over towards the greenhouse. The boulders are just more volcanics that have been altered that were transported down in the volcanic mud flow. But the importance of this unit is that it forms a cap rock over the reservoir that's at greater depth. And that reservoir is actually a Paleozoic limestone that's fractured, and it also has some solution cavities in it. We call it karst. It's same as cave-like features, and most of it's collapsed. The upper rocks that you see here that form the gravel that's kind of cemented, it forms kind of a little cliff above our aquitard. By the way, the aquitard is called the Palm Park Formation. The rocks above that, those are either arroyo fill in some places or they're ancestral Rio Grande River gravels. In this case right here, these are arroyo gravels here. But the gravels that you see at the top that form kind of a slope, those are ancestral Rio Grande deposits, and they're just sand and gravel. The river has been entrenching in this area for the last 700,000 years, and so you have terracing that takes place. That's not all that much important. It's this aquitard, or this cap rock unit, the Palm Park Formation. Now the next unit that's very important here, you see the cliffy rocks over here that form kind of the brown faces on fractures, and it's kind of a cream colored rock, and you can see it's all fractured up. That is a rhyolite dike that dips back into the subsurface about 30 degrees to the north, and that is a shallow reservoir rock, and it actually provides a conduit for the deep-seated hot water to flow up closer to the surface. And the old original Radium springs were just right around the corner just north of the railroad track, and we'll go by that. The red building that you see off to the west here, that's the Radium Springs Resort or Hotel, and that's geothermally heated, and they have some shallow geothermal wells there and tubs, and their hot water is associated with this rhyolite, and that hill that you see just on the other side of the railroad track is just an outlier of that. It just remains. So anyway, the shallow reservoir rock here is this rhyolite dike that dips back into the subsurface to the north. And the deep reservoir, like I said, is the limestone. And You don't see that in outcrop here, but you do see it in the Robledo Mountains over here to the south. And so that's the important geology and hydrogeology here. Any questions?
Is the water hot?
Huh?
Why is it hot?
Why is it hot? Well, this water circulates probably in the Jornada Basin over here to the west. It circulates down maybe as deep as 14,000 feet, because these Paleozoic rocks are buried that deep, and then it finds its way up along permeable vertical zones, and then leaks into the shallower rock here, and then flows out to the surface here. So you can view it as kind of a regional groundwater flow system rather than just being an alluvial field. It's a regional system with recharge probably at the north end of the Jornada and maybe the San Andres Mountains over here to the west, some distance from here, and it flows through bedrock the entire time. But at 14,000 feet with just the background temperature gradients that we have here in this region, you can reach temperatures as high as 150 degrees centigrade, 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and that may be the parent temperature of this water here. We have evidence from the chemistry of the water that says that. The hottest that we've encountered drilling here is some wells to the north here at about 226 degrees Fahrenheit. An area like this where it flows to the surface from great depth, I call these things hydrogeologic windows. It just provides a vertical conduit for that water to discharge from very great depth to the surface. This water may even circulate through Precambrian rock and granite, because in this area with the young faulting and everything, even a granite can be an aquifer where it's fractured up, say along fault zones, and that can allow that water to seep great depth and then come back to the surface. What drives these water flows is the elevation differences between the water table in the recharge area and the water table in the valley here. And you almost always see hot springs adjacent to regional drainage or large drainage at low elevation, whereas the recharge will be high in the mountains. So the drive on that system is your pressure differences from your water table.
When it comes out, is it coming out as steam or?
No, it just comes out as hot water. In fact,
really hot water?
Yeah, our geothermal resources here in New Mexico are almost entirely just hot water. Now, they can be hot enough that when you take the pressure off of it in a well near the surface, it'll turn to steam, or a fraction of that will flash to steam. But we prefer to keep it in the hot water state. Steam is a little more difficult to deal with when you're engineering stuff on the surface. Probably the only steam system in New Mexico that's natural is in the Jemez Mountains, and that would be in the Sulphur Creek area on the west side of Redondo Peak in that Valles caldera. There's some fumaroles and sulfur springs. You can smell it long before you get there, and that's a steam system. There's actually steam in the subsurface there, a small amount, in a shallow reservoir there. And it forms because the deeper hot water reservoir is flowing upward, and as it loses pressure, the temperature is sufficient that it boils, and then that steam collects below a cap rock, and then it leaks up in places, and you get your fumaroles.
Why aren't there power plants utilizing this for renewable energy alternative?
Here in New Mexico, we actually produce 0.5 megawatt of electrical power geothermal right now in the Animas Valley. And it's done with a process it's called binary electrical power generation, and it's a Rankine cycle, just like a normal steam system would be, except the working fluid that turns a turbine is actually a fluid that has a lower boiling point, like isopentane or any organic fluid like that has a low boiling point. And you use the geothermal and run that through a heat exchanger, and you heat that organic fluid and flash it to a gas. and it has sufficient pressure that it then turns a turbine, and then you bring it back around, run it through another heat exchanger where you may have a cooling tower, and we call that a condenser side or condenser, and that turns that organic fluid back to a liquid, and then you run it through the heat exchanger where your geothermal is. So you have a closed loop with your organic working fluid, and then your geothermal is another closed loop that comes out of the ground with a geothermal well, and then it's injected in an injection well. And so it's none of these fluids actually interact with the environment directly. And so it's a really interesting way to produce power with lower temperatures. This technology is fairly new. 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been doing this. People would have been looking for geothermal resources at least 180 degrees centigrade before you even thought about power production. Today, you can even think of temperatures right around boiling and be thinking possible small-scale power production with geothermal. There was a project in the Valles Caldera in the Jemez Mountains in the 1980s. It was a joint project between Unocal Geothermal out of San Francisco and the U.S. Department of Energy and Public Service of New Mexico. And they were going to put in a 50 megawatt power plant in that area of Redondo Creek on the southwest side of Redondo Peak. They actually went up there and drilled about 28, 30 wells, but most of the wells were unproductive, and so they never were able to produce enough fluid to run a 50 megawatt power plant. They did find enough fluid to produce a 30 megawatt power plant or a 20 megawatt power plant. And but anyway, the project was scratched. The power plant was already built and designed, and that was sold to CFE in Mexico, and is currently producing power southwest of Mexico City. And but anyway, that project was abandoned. The pads for and the site for the power plant and everything is still existing, but we probably won't see anything happen up there anytime new in our immediate time frame, because that area has been turned into the Valles Caldera Preserve, which I have reservations about how that's done, because the area where the geothermal is, it's hidden away from everything, and geothermal can be done where it's you don't even notice it's really there environmentally. You would have to put a power line to the south, and you could probably do that down through Jemez Springs and down to San Ysidro without a lot of trouble. It may be that someday the Valles Caldera Preserve, the people that are on the board that manage that may decide that a little geothermal power is a good way to draw in some income to support that preserve and make it self-sufficient without taxpayer money. So, but we'll see. But there's plenty of other terrain in New Mexico to go looking for hot water. And what we're going to look at today is a geothermally heated greenhouse. And quite frankly, I'm a little biased, but I think direct use of geothermal and things like greenhousing are a heck of a lot more important than electrical power from geothermal. In fact, the cash flows from a greenhouse like this far exceed what you get, say, from a 20 or 30 megawatt power plant. And so it also hires a lot of people. A binary geothermal power plant, you really don't have that many people that work at those things. It only takes 2 or 3 people to just come by every once in a while and make sure everything's working fine. So as with a greenhouse like this, you may have 140, 160 people that are employed, and the gross receipts off of this, there's a tax base there, and so it's very important for rural economic development. In fact, this greenhouse right here is the largest business in northern Doñana County, and there's another business over in southwest of Lordsburg. It's a geothermally heated greenhouse. It's actually the largest business in Hidalgo County. So,
which one is that?
That's the Brigade greenhouse. Yeah.
And there's a fish farm there too, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a geothermally heated fish farm also there. And
Tilapia?
they have plans to expand their operation significantly.
But they're
So,
still producing roses?
yeah.
They pulled out of Albuquerque, though.
Pardon me?
They pulled it out of Albuquerque?
Yeah, he's has his greenhouse up for sale, and his rose production has dropped off quite a bit from what it used to be. So, but it'll come back up in business as soon as it sells, I'm sure. Yeah, Mr. Burgett's getting up in years, and I think he's ready to. I think his wife.
He's a
is
great
pressuring
character.
him
I talked to him for a
Yeah.
little bit, and he was
Oh,
quite
yeah.
a guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love him. He's one of the most self-sufficient people I've ever met. He can do just about anything. And the power plant that's operating in New Mexico is his power plant. It's, and he has fun with that. Anyway, I
Okay.
think we ought to get down and,
Okay.
and see the greenhouse
Thank
right
you.
quick. And okay, we're at the Masson Radium Springs greenhouse, and let me introduce you to one of the managers. This is Doug Andrews, and he's going to lead our field trip through one of the greenhouse ranges here and explain what they're doing in there and the plants they're growing and some of the processes that are taking place. And as we go through this, we'll expand out from that and integrate the geothermal heating process that takes place here. And with that, I guess we can.
Yeah, we'll go. I'm going to go over to range 9 first.
Okay.
It's our newest range. It's not full. We're just refilling it at the moment, but you can see all the equipment.
Range means what?
Greenhouse.
Okay.
This is a 2-acre greenhouse.
Okay.
So we're going to head this way.
All right.
Super. The business was started in the 1800s, the late 1800s in Kansas, by the owner's, I believe, his great-grandfather. And it has moved on through the family. Alexander Masson is the owner now. And about 20 years ago, more than 20 years, he decided to build some greenhouses in New Mexico. At the time, the reason was geothermal heat. He's since found many other benefits, and the geothermal heat is just one. We probably have, we think we do, we have the best labor force in the country in this area. A lot of people do come up from Mexico and will work under a green card, and they have very good work ethics. You know, they want to work, and they want to please the employer. So it's a really good relationship. We also have the best light in North America here in this part of the country. And probably count all the cloudy days on your hands that we have, where it's, in Seattle it's a little different, or New York. So in the winter it gives us a tremendous advantage in the marketplace. We grow a much higher quality product, and we can grow cheaper with the geothermal heat. And that is becoming more and more of a factor. Northern growers are contracting more with southern growers to do a lot of their plants. And just kind of the way the trend is moving.
What do you grow here?
We grow primarily chrysanthemum. That's the backbone of our production. And from there we do calanchos, poinsettias, Berbera daisy, cyclamen, all flowering potted crops.
And how do you gauge what you produce? Is it counts of plants, or is it tons of plants, or is it value of plants?
Well, we're limited by the size of the facility.
Right.
And so we try and fill up the facility and put pressure on sales to move it. We look at how last year's records to see what sold, what colors sold, what varieties sold. There's different shapes and sizes of mums and other flowers, and so we try and keep up with what's happening and what we're predicting is going to happen.
Where do you ship to?
All over the United States.
All over
Yeah.
means everywhere.
Yes.
East Coast, West
Yeah,
Coast, North,
but heavy into the Midwest.
Midwest.
Yeah.
And
So-
there are how many people employed here ordinarily?
We have anywhere from 110 to 130 employees
Making you a
year-round
major employer
in
in
the
this
area.
part of the state.
Yes, yes.
And the greenhouse we're in now, if you could explain some of the technology,
Sure.
the plant and that sort of thing.
Yeah. This is one of our newer greenhouses, and there's several things for you to see in here. First of all, anybody have any idea how it's heated?
We assume
True. Okay.
and the sun.
Sun. All right. In the daytime, the heat system shuts off. All right. At night, it has to come on. We don't. You see a heater that's blowing in here, or okay? We circulate hot water through here, and this pipe system up top, we have top heat that radiates down to a certain extent. There are pipes in this floor embedded in the concrete, so it heats up at whatever time we determine. We can let the computer make that decision, or we can override it. We have to be careful of the heat, the temperature of the floor for several reasons. One is, if we get it too hot, we can crack the concrete. If we get it too hot, we can burn the roots on the plants. So we try to protect the plants.
How do you do that? Control the heat.
We have
How's that
temperature
done?
sensors on the inlet and the outlet of these floors. They're on the outside of the greenhouse,
Okay.
and they are constantly measuring the temperature. And we have valves automatic valves that adjust and blend cooler water and hotter water to give us just what we want.
Is the water temperature here constant, or does it fluctuate?
It may fluctuate
Thermal
depending
water,
upon which well that they're pumping.
Yeah. For a given well, it will not fluctuate from day to day. It might from year to year. But for instance, right now we're pumping out of the hole at 192 degrees.
Fahrenheit.
Yes. At 192 degrees. Goes through our heat exchanger. We put the heat into a freshwater loop. All right? The geothermal water then, after heating that loop, we put it back, force it back in the ground. We like to think of the whole system as a big heat exchanger there in the earth. We pull out the heat, we put it back, we bring more up. I don't know that that's really happening.
Right.
We're hitting the same aquifer,
Right.
but it's the general area, I think.
Are there rules about allowing the water to empty into a stream or creek, arroyo, anything like that?
I think we're not allowed to let any water head for the river.
Zero.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's very corrosive, the water, extremely corrosive. In less than a year, it will eat through carbon steel pipes.
You clean it up before you put it through the...
No, we run it through fiberglass, and we have pumps with titanium parts.
Wow. Expensive pumps, obviously.
Yes, but we don't have any trouble if we use a pump that'll handle it, and the fiberglass pipe is great. So that's how we don't bring it into this greenhouse. We have a freshwater loop here to protect all this piping.
Why are there fans here everywhere?
Right. Well, if we would turn those fans off, it would right here. It'd probably 140 degrees within 30 minutes.
And you would be uncomfortable. I wouldn't, because
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be.
A general rule with plants is if it's over 80 degrees, they're not very happy. It's not the case with all plants, but in general for us that works. So we try not to ever let it get over 80, and we like it lower. We have cooling pads on this side, pulling air this direction through the pad. We can bring the temperature down 20 to 25 degrees, and I think that's physically, that's all you can do. because of our low humidity, we can really maximize that. Whereas back east, if it's 95 degrees,
You're stuck.
yeah, they can't bring it down with
Is that
pad-
Fahrenheit?
Yes, Fahrenheit, sorry. So we can see some blue sky there. That's a cardinal sin in greenhouse production. We had a storm last night and it ripped off a roof. So we're waiting for it to be replaced today.
Doug, you might point out what the purpose of the black curtain is up here.
Chrysanthemums and a lot of other plants require certain signals to get them to flower. We want everything to happen on our schedule. So we time these plants. If you look at that plant, I can tell you within 3 days of when it's going to bloom, if we do our job right. So the way you do it with chrysanthemums, you leave, they need what's called long days, where they get more day length than the length of the night. That keeps them vegetating, so they don't flower. We do that for a certain number of weeks, and when we're ready to say, okay, now we want to initiate a flower, we turn the lights off and give them a night that's longer than the day. So what we're doing, we're mimicking the natural, when they bloom naturally, which is in the fall and winter. So we're creating an artificial winter by light, and light is the trigger for a month. So when we're ready, we move it out here, and these black curtains we close and provide a 14-hour night. They think it's winter time, and so they start blooming, and we'll make our truck. So when we close this, we want to make sure we get no more than 10 foot candles to hit the crop. And it's usually much lower than that. But if we're over 10, it won't bloom. It doesn't work. So that's what that's for. It also in the winter provides heat retention. When we pull that, it helps keep the heat in here. We keep it warmer.
Excellent.
Now our irrigation system, I think you can see there's some sprinklers. We use that for about half of the crop that's in here, and then we start using the floor. The large pipes under here, we can fill this floor with 3,000 gallons of water in 5 minutes. And then we can drain it in 5 minutes. So it will surface over in that house, come to this one, to the next one, or whichever ones we determine. And it's a recycled system. So we have our fertilizer water, we use it, put it back, clean it up, we reuse it.
More complicated than I had thought.
It's very common. It's very
Technology.
the technology is. We can't do it without a computer. So we have environmental computers, we have irrigation computers, and obviously sales and all of that. All these systems are. Some are integrated, some aren't.
Do you sell all potted plants or any cut flowers? All potted plants.
This year I did sell 30,000 rose cuttings to a company that was going to chop them up and graft them onto rose trees. So they wanted our variety. So that was different for me. It was fun.
So, do any edible? Like,
We do. We're just getting into it. We did some this spring and fall. We're doing tomatoes and lettuces, peppers, thinking about things like salsa bowls,
Right,
that might sell in the Southwest.
right.
But we're not into vegetable production where we're just producing fruit. Yeah. More of a novelty like for grocery stores. Yeah. Well, let's go to a different greenhouse.
Super, thank you.
We'll see what's going on the stick line there.
Wonderful.
Small amount of automation compared to what some of the more advanced greenhouses have. The pot filling machine is, many greenhouses will have an arm here that stacks it into the trays. And,
Right.
yeah, this can crank out a phenomenal number of pots. We'll do anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 a week.
A week.
Yeah.
Where does the mix come from?
Well, we buy all the ingredients in, and then we mix them
yourself?
in the ratio. Yes.
Is it perlite from
No perlite.
local?
It's
That's not.
no, that's styrofoam.
Oh, it's styrofoam.
Yeah, it's a reuse. We're using consumer products that have been ground up.
Why not perlite?
Costs.
Socorro makes perlite.
Yeah. All right. We can bring it in for North Dakota.
No, okay.
Cheaper.
Cheaper, really? Oh yeah. I didn't know this.
And there's also
Styrofoam.
rock wool in it.
Really?
Rock wool helps retain a little more water. So we're putting in the styrofoam for aeration. We add the rock wool for water retention in the crops that can handle it. Mums and Berber daisies, we use it in, but there's others that it really is harmful. Holds too much water. So then we add certain nutrients. We make certain charges here so that the pH is correct and all kinds of things.
Here.
Right.
So, blended.
Yes, the blade in there. And then there's a certain amount of blending that takes place in the hopper there.
Gander up here, guys.
This is our propagation area. This is where all the plants are started. These happen to be chrysanthemums. This is what we plant. There's no roots. We have a mother stalk that we grow. Now because it's stock, we have to have these vegetative. So out there we run lights at night to make the plants think it's summer year-round, so they don't set a flower.
Right.
But we don't want to give them any more light than they need, so we give them between 10 and 20 foot candles, so we don't have a high energy cost for that. So they're in here for about 21 to 28 days before we move them to start the flower initiation process.
So
Not
these
sure
are
where I
cuttings
found
then? These
Yeah,
are cuttings?
These are cuttings.
And you've added them to the mixture. Are there hormones in there also?
We do treat the base of the cutting with a hormone, a plant hormone that encourages rooting. They'll root on their own, but it's much faster and more uniform with the hormone added.
So these are actually clones of
Yes,
the
they are. Yes.
identical in every way to
That's
the
right.
stock.
That's right. Now we can screw it up by not growing them correctly. You know, if you starve a child, you know, he may not ever reach 6 feet. He might be a little guy, but if you feed him, he'll reach his full potential. So we still have to treat them correctly. We run mist in here. We want to keep the humidity high because there are no roots. This plant transpires, it loses moisture. So a little mist. At night we drop the walls to keep the humidity high, and we actually turn the mist off then. So it runs about 100% humidity. We have the pipes up top, and we have them under the benches to provide heat. And there's several different lighting systems in here. We have the incandescents on this side that provide just the minimum amount of light to keep them vegetative. When they move across, we have the high intensity lights, the HID lamps, that we actually have a higher quality of light to get a better quality product. A lot of growers don't invest in that. We see the value, and we do get top dollar for our product. Where a greenhouse might get $2 for their pots, we get $4.
Are these hand planted?
All hand.
All by hand.
There are machines in Europe that do this, and it's a substantial investment. We probably won't be doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Does the music have any effect on the plants?
I think it aggravates the heck out of them. No. No, I don't think it does. Yeah. We allow music to be played in the greenhouses because we feel that the employees are more productive. Not because we're trying to provide a nice music environment, because they talk less. They're listening to something.
Yeah.
So,
and doing something at the
yes.
same time.
There are some places we don't have the music running because it seems to be more of a distraction. It just depends on the job and where we are, what we're doing.
Can you clone a clone?
Absolutely, we just did.
How many times can you do that?
Well, our mother stock plants, we only have them producing for 13 weeks. And then we begin to see the vigor fall away from it. Now we can take, after 13 weeks, we can take that cutting and plant it, and the vigor returns. Genetically, it's still the same. So after decades, maybe 20 years, a variety becomes tired. And usually by then, the marketplace is tired of the variety also. So some of those old varieties just kind of fall away.
These are by color then, or form
Yes.
and color?
Yeah, so you know,
Size?
right now, we're planting fall colors heavily. We're not planting for Valentine's yet. Let's see if I can see a label here. This is supposed to hit week 40, so we're talking probably in September. And sticking week 28 for week 40. This is Pele, variety that's it's a bright orange daisy with yellow highlights, and highly requested all over the country now. So the people that developed this variety did a very good job of marketing it to our customers who are really kind of ignorant, but they're becoming more and more educated.
Yeah, oh, people are, right.
Yeah.
Right.
What are some of the other plants that are in those directions?
The pretty little colors over there, the light green, that's sweet potato vine. Ornamental sweet potatoes. We started this last year. We sold 1.5 million cuttings to other growers. We're looking to diversify, and so we're selling them this. We don't have to propagate it. They pay the shipping to their greenhouses.
Right.
We sold 1.5 million. This year, 6 million.
Wow.
So it really is increasing. We get about 12 cents a piece.
Why?
Why what?
Why is it increasing?
It's really a new
Popularity.
plant. Yeah. And these new varieties are more compact, so they won't take over the car in the front yard, but they'll still grow and make a beautiful ground cover very fast. Yeah. And a wide range of colors from reds and bronzes to black and greens and
Sweet
variegated.
potato.
Yeah.
Sweet potato.
So it'll be more and more people will be growing it.
That's excellent. I didn't know that.
So what else? That's Chrysanthera over there. Dark leaf, bright orange flower. On the other wall we have poinsettias. It's Christmas time here. The next 6 weeks our entire crop will be done planting, and then we'll just finish it. So we have our poinsettia mother stock that we're harvesting off of. Anywhere from 10 to 30,000 cuttings a week.
Are you used to that?
Yeah. If you run, you're just going to hurt yourself.
No, it's just fine.
Time or computer control based on moisture, humidity?
Yes, both. We can run it off time. If it gets dark and time is too frequent, the computer will kick over to light to run off light intensity. So we have light sensors and whatever we need to make it do what we want it to do.
It does feel fine.
We have a total of 16 acres here. Yeah, which is 750,000 square feet, more or less.
That's
Water's-
growing acres.
That's right, growing acres. Right.
Well water or
Yes, okay, here we go. It is more complicated than you think. We do use well water, but the well water here is not suitable for growing these plants.
Why?
The salts.
Hardness and
Yes,
mineral matter.
alkalinity. Just horrible. The EC is about 1.8 out of the ground.
pH is about 8 or something?
8.
Yeah.
So we have to clean the water up. We have some very large RO units. We're doing about 120 gallons a minute that we run through to clean up the water. Now the water quality then is too good. We use that extremely high quality in here. An EC of 0.5 will burn these plants. So we run this as close to 0 as we can. It's almost distilled water. So, but that's the only place we do it. For the other places, we blend a little well water back into it to maximize our RO water. And we try and send it to the greenhouses at 0.5, 0.4. You see yellow margins around the edges of the leaves, or they turn brown.
Yeah.
The growth isn't there. So a lot of problems with that. And if it's too pure, you have a lot of problems.
Distilled water.
Yeah, you can't grow with distilled water.
Right.
So
So that's an added expense and also a complication.
yes.
So you have to have trained staff who are chemists or almost.
Well, we have to
water
maintain.
chemists or something.
We have people that maintain the ROs.
Yeah.
They don't know so much about what I demand in the greenhouse.
Okay.
So I'm kind of the interface there, and every day I check the EC and the pH in every tank to make sure it's what we expect it to be. So we'll go look in one other greenhouse.
Sure.
Over there, where the blue hose is, that's a water boom that moves back and forth and waters the crops. It is the best system if you have pots that are close together. It is the most uniform. This pot will get just as much as the one in the middle,
Right.
which is, it's all about uniformity here.
Right.
The customer doesn't want, he orders 10 mums of all the same variety. He doesn't want them 10 different heights.
Do all the cuttings stay in the pot forever?
Unless we kill one.
Well, I mean, you know,
Transplant?
transplant it elsewhere.
No.
Okay.
No.
So everything stays put.
Right.
To get a nice bloom and everything else.
Yes.
Okay.
And now there's a whole process to get the right number of flowers, the right height of the plants. If it's bigger than the box, we have a problem. So we use chemical growth regulators. Each plant responds to a different regulator, it seems like. So we have 7 or 8 different regulators. Then there's concentration. And if you put too much on, then you mess up your timing. When the truck pulls to the dock, we better have those plant ready. Those are really the only reason why a grower would be fired. If the truck's here
Yeah.
and we didn't know
The
that
plants are ready.
the plant wasn't ready. So,
Time is money.
yeah. And the next crop demands the space. It's
Right,
all
that's right.
all time. We'll go and look at where we can see some color. This is kind of boring. He's a new addition to our Penn State.
Penn State. Oh
We're sorry to rain on your parade.
Yeah, that's what I said, Penn State.
She is planting, this is called Hawaiian Potho. You probably, sorry, it's we have so much, we're just trying to do extra work today. Actually, we do. This is called a leaf and eye. Obviously, the leaf, and this is called, an eye is a dormant bud. We just plant these pieces. They'll sprout roots in 3 weeks. And in this size pot, in about 18 weeks, we'll have a saleable plant. We're actually going to use it, though, as a mother stock for a few weeks in between. So we'll harvest. It's a self-perpetuating program. We plant, let it grow, make a harvest, and then we'll sell it. So we get a lot of benefit. We bring these cuttings in, or have, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Brazil. They arrive every week. We have trouble. We run temperature sensors in the shipments And usually, somewhere along the way, somebody drops the ball and the temperature gets too hot and we receive mush. Or if it looks good, still means nothing. We could plant this today and 3 days later it turns yellow. So we're trying to do everything we can in-house. Much better quality, much faster. We're in control. So this is just one item that we also do. But we harvest the long runner and then we have people chop them up.
People who own those plants in other countries trying to send drugs through on shipments?
Well, we haven't. I mean, conceivably it could happen. I believe it has happened with roses from Ecuador, you know, and places like that. Colombia is a big cut flower producing region. So, but I'm sure maybe some of those businesses kind of a cover.
So
But
your Department of Agriculture inspects you, or?
well, the USDA inspects this coming in from
Right.
offshore. Either usually
You've
this
got
comes from
permits
Miami.
and all that sort of thing too,
Oh,
which
yeah.
adds to
Yeah.
the complexity of things.
Yeah, there and certain diseases that are not allowed.
Right, there are plants not allowed, and all that sort
Right,
of stuff.
and from outside the United States, no soil is allowed to be shipped in. So you can only buy unrooted cuttings from other countries, pieces of plants or tissue culture material. Yeah.
Do you pay a fortune in permits?
No, we don't. Now,
Department,
the
or-
supplier, they have to pay all the permits. If they want to get product in the United States, it's upon them. Obviously, they pass that cost on to us.
Yeah, the price.
So, you know, these cuttings, I believe these are running about 8 or 10 cents a piece, which is inexpensive compared to like a mum, which is running now, I think, about 15 cents, if we were to buy them in. We do all our mums in-house. So, yeah, so you're starting off with, you know, I think we put 20 cuttings or so. How many are we putting in these?
20?
20, okay. 20 times 8 cents, you know. Hopefully we'll get $6 for it, or more.
The whole plant?
Yes.
The whole,
Yeah, and we're only wholesale.
okay.
We're strictly wholesale.
No retail.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go to one where there's some more color.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Or a Persian violet.
I've had buy it and I've killed it before. I'll probably keep you in business.
You know, it's, well, if you continue to buy it, most people, if they don't have success, they're not going to buy it again. You probably would buy a DVD next time. Lasts longer for you. We think we compete with DVDs. This is discretionary dollars. And the younger generations, like my son, I mean, he would never think about buying a plant if he could buy a DVD. So I think the older generations, or maybe as we age, we become more interested. Yeah.
I love plants.
So what's different about this greenhouse, here we grow on tables instead of the floor. And in my opinion, this is one of the best table systems to grow on. We have this trough, so we water down, goes down the trough, we catch it to recycle it in the center. And we don't get water on the foliage, which causes a lot of diseases. We have airflow through here instead of a solid bench. A lot of growers have big solid bench. They call that ebb and flood watering. But they tend to have more fungal and disease problems. So this is a nice blend of both.
The floor is open too. It's not concrete.
Right. No, we have dirt in here now. We still we've redone these floors because they were sinking. We're going to be putting a ground cover over it that water will still penetrate, but what a dirt floor does, it adds humidity to the system. Where the concrete floor just seems to suck the life right out of the air. And one of the biggest drawbacks of growing here is the low humidity. We fight plants that want to have small leaf sizes, small flowers. So in a lot of greenhouses, we actually have low pressure fog systems to bring the humidity up. And the computer controls valves that do that kind of thing. Also, with the low humidity, we have more chance of burning with pesticides. This is our dirty little secret. We have to use a lot of pesticides to grow plants. Yes. For instance, this greenhouse is sprayed 3 times a week, sometimes 4.
Against what?
Primarily thrips. Anybody familiar with what's the thrips? Very small insect, maybe millimeter, half millimeter. It gets into the flowers, and if we ship some out with them, they will not last for the customer. The plant will go down in about a week, look unsightly, and we probably won't see a repeat sale. So we work very hard to keep them clean, and especially for the prices we charge, they really expect them to be clean. We can't even ship them out with beneficial insects. Some of our acreage is strictly beneficials. If it's big enough for them to detect, they'll complain. And they don't care if it's, oh, that's a good bug. They don't care. So sometimes we have to kill them at the end of the crop too.
Sterile.
Yeah. So but that a lot of pesticides are sprayed. With the low humidity, there's a high chance of burning the leaves or the flower.
What's a price increase over advanced plants versus younger plants that you ship?
Well, I'd say on this plug that we put in here, we bought it. We paid 50 cents for it. A little baby plant.
Yeah.
And we'll sell that for $6. So we probably have another 50 to 75 cents in the pot and the soil.
And time.
Time, fertilizer, pesticides. This crop, this time of year is 13 weeks. In the dead of winter, it's 16. We have our year divided into, well, for instance, mums is divided into 6 different periods because of early January, February, you have a certain mix. Valentine's, you have a certain mix of colors. Easter, you have a different mix. Mother's Day, it's time to get yellows and oranges in. And so we're constantly changing the mix and the flower type and the textures to keep up with the holidays.
Do you use geothermal energy in this greenhouse?
We use geothermal in the whole facility. We transfer the heat to a freshwater loop. When we go in there, we'll show you that spatially so you can kind of see it. So geothermal heats the entire place, yes.
These are the geothermal.
Yeah.
One of the geothermal units in there.
Yeah, hot water pipes there. You can see a few fans in some houses. Those are what we call horizontal airflow. When there is no air being pulled through the greenhouses through the exhaust fans, we want the air moving. We have less disease issues. It's not that way with every crop, but some crops. It can be a real problem if it's stagnant air.
Working here are comfortable. It's comfortable air temperature and all that sort of thing. It's not,
It's comfortable in this aisle. If you get into the
yeah,
middle, you will begin to
okay,
perspire.
okay.
And if you get to the back end, you're going to be hot. It's we're talking usually a 20-degree spread
So this moves that way.
in 144 feet.
That's great.
Yeah. Now, something we haven't talked about, on the other side of this, in most of our ranges, not actually in this one, we have an insect screen that covers all the air intake. The air is pulled through that screen and then through. That screen reduces the amount of air we can pull through the greenhouse. So we have to engineer it appropriately so that we get all the air to keep these fans fed and we don't have negative pressure in here. But the insect screen is great for preventing initial outbreaks of insects getting in. It has to be smaller than the smallest insect we fight, which is the thrips.
That's pretty small.
It's very small.
That adds up to a lot of acre feet.
An acre foot is what, 246,000 gallons?
Are there issues about you using that much, or?
There haven't been thus
Haven't
far.
been, no.
You know, we haven't had any trouble. You know, this is kind of maybe counterproductive, but we want to keep our volumes up.
Yeah.
We feel like if we don't, they're going to be restricting us. Obviously, if we have empty benches, we don't water.
Right.
But
Right.
you know, we don't hesitate to water if we have to or need to.
Water rights, state engineer, if you don't use it, you lose it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Who's your company? Who competes with you here in the state? Anybody? The product?
Really, no. There is another large greenhouse. We are ranked about 50th in the country for size.
Country.
Aldershot, about 20 miles away, is the same. We fluctuate between who has more acreage year to year, whoever builds. So, but they're not really our competitors. They grow the same products, but they sell them for much less. They're into volume. They're into quality.
Walmart.
Walmart. They do Walmart. They do Lowe's.
Yeah.
They do Home Depots. And we try and limit those kind of accounts to less than 5% of our accounts. We don't want to be into them because they call the shots. Walmart says, you know that order for 100,000 roses or tulips, this is what they did last year. That you had for Valentine's Day, we don't think we're going to sell it. Keep it. And they were really hurting last Valentine's Day. We had no business with them. We didn't miss a beat.
That's interesting.
What places could we buy these things?
Albertsons carries our product, yeah, locally. But we also sell to Safeway, Kroger. We used to sell to Target. They don't do plants any longer. And anybody that'll pay our price. But we try not to negotiate on price. We've really got to be in a bad way. The owner a lot of times would prefer to dump a crop than reduce the price, and we don't want our customers used to that.
What's the market?
order you ever built or allowed to build?
Well, we have had to set a minimum. I believe now it's 100 cases, but it used to be, I think, 10. We could sell to local florists that way, but that business for us is kind of dried up. You know, we like now just to send out full semi-trucks. We have, I think we only have one local truck left here, so we do a little bit of it.
Over all the racks move, you know, like she pushed the full entire.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah.
No, she is. I think she
Very
has the
strong.
world record for weightlifting. No, this was. I think it came out in the 70s.
Oh, so they're like compactor.
It's just sitting on a pipe.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just on a pipe.
Yeah.
All you have to do is be careful. You don't have your finger between there as it rolls. But you learn it. If you hit it once, you never do it again. So.
Wonderful.
The little cards are to monitor certain types of insects. There's a little, like a thimble on it. That is a new pheromone that I'm testing for thrips. It's a sexual pheromone, yes, and it attracts them to the card. Really, the card is not meant to control the population; it's to monitor. There's thousands in here, and what it does, though, at least the theory is, that little pheromone, it excites them and keeps them moving and agitated when we put the pesticide on. So they're not deep in the flowers or in the foliage. Like they get in that bud. The softest tissue is where they like to feed. So you don't even know they're ruining your crop until it's a week later or 2 weeks. Okay, well, let's go
Fascinating.
see the heat. instances, okay? But I'll explain that.
yeah.
So,
The heat here is from, I'm encountering this heat. This is the geothermal heat.
yes.
This is all the heat coming from the ground, right here. Jim, how hot is this?
Well, this water comes out of the ground from wells that are roughly, the deeper ones are roughly 800 feet deep.
800 feet.
And the temperature is probably 190 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And it comes out of a well through a pipeline and enters these plate frame heat exchangers right here. This is the exchanger here.
Right here.
This is your plate frame heat exchanger.
Water is flowing out.
Coming in here.
Coming in the pipe. Flowing up through here.
And that's the
So this is where it's exchanged.
yeah.
Radiated.
And these are very efficient. You only get a 2 or 3 degree difference between the hot water coming in and the heated fresh water coming in.
It's an amazing amount of heat.
Yeah.
Have you all come feel the heat? No?
Don't touch.
Don't touch it.
Now with new technology, we had 2 identical heat exchangers. One went bad, so we bought the new technology. That's doing the same thing as this one.
You got a small one.
Yes.
How much was that?
I would
A lot
guess
more money?
I would guess $10,000.
Which isn't that bad. But the astounding thing here is that it's geothermal energy. It's the heat from the ground coming up. This is what it is. For free.
Almost. We
for
just
free.
have to drill some wells
But
and
the
use some
technology for
electricity.
wells. Is there a problem in the lifetime of wells
Right here.
dug here? How about the piping? Is it corrosive? Do you have
Very
to-
corrosive water. Yeah. That's why the fiberglass.
Fiberglass is here and everything else looks like it's stainless steel or
Stainless steel lasts longer than carbon steel, but it will eventually go bad also.
Heat exchangers, these are titanium steel.
titanium steel heat exchanger. Is there a need for valves to control pressure or?
Well, there's valving and pumping for the distribution system.
And depending on what zone in the greenhouse is calling for heat, certain pumps come on and send heat that direction. It's all based on demand, on parameters that I set and say, this crop needs more heat, this needs less. It'll do whatever we tell it.
Can you take those?
Part right there. What happened there? Down that silver pipe, there's a bunch that's crushed. Is that from heat pressure? Yeah.
It's just a thin metal sheet that insulates the pipe to retain the heat. So somebody just bumped into it, or yeah, you could punch it. It's very pliable.
When something goes wrong with some of this, who do you call? Like, is there a geothermal company or?
No, we do it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
next thing.
There is no geothermal company. It's them.
And that's been part of the problem with it, is finding people that know what they're talking about. I think Jim has really helped us with locating wells that has equipment. It's been a real battle, pumps and things.
Yeah, and one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that the geothermal well, this heat exchanger right here, this replaces a conventional fossil fuel boiler. When you look at the manifold here and the heating equipment inside a greenhouse, that's pretty much the same as you'd see in a conventional geothermal greenhouse, where you're using a fossil fuel boiler to make hot water. Here, it's this heat exchanger and the geothermal well out here that is the difference. And also this big tank that you see out here in a minute.
Yeah. But this, if anything goes wrong, you don't want to be in here. I mean, this water will eat your skin off. We've had,
So corrosive.
well, it's hot. And you know, if you have a solution that's hot and salty,
Yeah.
it doesn't just go on you and burn and roll off. It just keeps burning.
Yeah, the salinity here is about 3,700 parts per million, and it's a sodium chloride water. And the chloride content's about 16 to 1,800 parts per million milligrams per liter chloride.
So that's,
So it's
what is that in comparison to like drinking water?
drinking water. You would prefer to have drinking water less than 600 or 800 parts per million. Yeah, much lower chloride.
Where those red tanks were?
Those are pressure tanks that hold air, and we keep the pressure at a certain level inside the system.
So the piping here flows everywhere.
Yeah, from here it goes through the whole facility. Yeah. Now the geothermal water, it just comes in and it goes out. We don't want it in here. So all this is the freshwater loop.
Exchange loop.
Yeah. We can look at this tank and we can talk about the theory. I believe it holds about 70,000 gallons, if I remember right, when we filled it.
So what happens here?
Well, it's insulated. It's an insulated tank. It was actually from a petroleum, something in Oklahoma. We brought it in on semi-trucks in one piece. It was extremely difficult to get it down that little curve on the road. Anyway, we got it in here. The idea is, during the day, we continue to run the well, and we continue to heat the water. We'll get this water about 180, maybe even a little more,
Fresh water
degrees.
in here.
Yeah, Fahrenheit. And that's our buffer. When the greenhouse starts demanding heat, we have a big pool for it to pull out, because when it demands, it usually all hits at once. And so that covers us for the that initial period. The thought is that it will also last us all the way through the night. But by morning, that tank temperature usually is around 115 to 120 degrees. So we're not realizing a lot of heat from it. We're not going to freeze, but I might be 5 degrees lower in the greenhouse than I want to be.
Is it pumped or gravity fed, or
It's all
How do you
hooked
feed?
into this system here.
so it's actually pumped?
Yeah, there's pumped. It pumps in and out, and there's different levels in it. It's a complicated little tank.
So in terms of electricity, you can think of this tank as a big battery and a capacitor.
Storehouse.
Yeah, storehouse. Yeah.
Right.
So you can instantly get what you need.
So we do heat crops in the summer at night, but primarily just in our starting area, that propagation area. We want the soil temperature at 78 degrees Fahrenheit, period. And we can't do it without the heat. Yeah. And the whole idea is, if we take longer to root a cutting, the greater the chance for it to get diseased or an insect, and then we're dead in the water. So as quick as possible. We found that to be the optimum temperature. So,
Who's in charge of this?
well, I'm the production manager.
So you're in charge of everything.
Try.
Right.
Yeah,
You-
we all work
you have to
together.
make sure
no one
that-
can control
Well,
it all.
that the gate valves are open or closed and all that sort of thing.
We try to communicate all those, for instance, right now, we have 3 freshwater wells. Our biggest and best one just went down. So we're running off 2 lower quality.
Why is it down?
They don't know yet. They're trying to figure out what happened. The
Mechanical.
pump stopped working.
The pump is gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of a sudden now, all my water going into the RO is in a higher EC.
Yeah.
It's affecting my water coming out, and it's affecting the water going in the greenhouse, so we're making all kinds of adjustments, trying to balance it.
So in a day of operation and night, there are hundreds of things that have to happen at the correct time.
Right.
And one person, you, make sure that it all happens.
We try to ask all the right questions and check
Is there
the
a
computer.
checklist?
Yes,
that you have?
yes, we have checklists, and the computer is a great tool, but if it goes unmonitored, it just does what you tell it, and it doesn't know that somebody turned the switch off that allows the whatever to turn on down there. It just says, I sent the signal. So everything looks great on the screen, but nothing's happening in the greenhouse because somebody turned all the fans off. Or
Are there people here 24 hours?
yes,
Nighttime staff and daytime staff?
yeah,
That's important.
yeah. So this is an earthen dam behind us. It's kind of interesting that these hills behind us drain right towards us. So we built this earthen dam to channel the water that way down that side and to the Rio Grande. Right straight ahead of us we had a breach. I want to say year 2000, 01, something like that. I remember it was Father's Day. We came in and there was this much water in the greenhouses. You see your flowers floating in the water. It was a tremendous thing to overcome.
Now, we just built that pad over here for 36.
Oh, yeah?
And the water came within that close to going over our pad.
One storm.
One storm.
One storm.
It was a huge storm.
Yeah, but
They may have gotten, what, 6 inches of rain up here? Perhaps 30 minutes.
years worth of rain.
And then a couple of years ago, we had what they called a microburst in this canyon right up here. The water came down so fast and hit the Rio Grande, it broadsided a train, and it blew it off the tracks.
Yeah.
And then it flooded from that direction on us. It was just too much for the system to handle. So it was really I never thought it would come from that direction, but
Hey, Hannah's right.
So your well is right here on site, like right under
we'll go out this and I can show you a little bit about where the well is.
Okay.
It comes over a hill, the pipe comes over a hill, but that'll help you see. We'll walk through here a little faster. Is where the pipe, it comes over that hill down, right down here under us and into this room. Just on the other side of that hill and down in the canyon is our well that we're currently using. We have another one just up over here that Jim referred to. It runs right at 200 degrees, the water coming out of it. And we're not using it, I believe the reason is it's on BLM land. And the BLM wants to start charging us for BTUs. And so we don't want to pay them and we won't use it unless we really have to. So,
We have no carbon issues here. The plants
in
at
Mexico,
night
maybe.
respire. Well, the plants at night
True.
respire, so you're
Yeah.
generating carbon dioxide.
well, and the plants utilize carbon dioxide in the day.
And make oxygen.
Yeah, yeah.
Water squirting out right there, is that?
Yes, that's kind of an interesting thing. We bleed off air there. But I think what really happens, and it was Rudy Schoenmacher told me this, tell me if you think this is correct. When it comes up over there, the water comes over the hill and starts a downward rush, a vacuum begins to build. And when a vacuum begins to build, at water that's almost 200 degrees, the boiling pressure falls. Plus, for the temperature at which water will boil decreases. Plus, we have a certain amount of elevation here. Rudy's thought was, water is boiling right there, and you're basically bleeding off steam. So his thought was, we should be able to generate electricity because of that. If we can make it boil. They do have technology now that we can do that here.
The amount of heat.
Yeah. So we grow in different crops in all these different houses. We have overhead shade systems for some. The computer retracts or opens based on clouds, no clouds. So
Excellent, excellent.
any other questions? We only got to see about 6 acres.
Amazing operation, absolutely
Not even half.
amazing operation.
Well, horticulture is not, and I think a lot of people have this misconception that it's a nice, relaxing job.
No, it's not.
No, it's very intense, and it really all boils down to money. You know, if it's not profitable, we're not here.
No, that's right. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good to have you all here.
Thank you too.
What'd you do before?
Mining.
Where are you from?
Carlsbad.
Are you from Carlsbad? Oh.
Yeah, I worked the mine that was called PCA there, which is it's not near the whip site. That's further south. I worked underground for 7-8 years, and ran the machines. I mined the ore. I went to New Mexico State after I left the mines. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. The reason I decided to go to school was because I couldn't progress underground. I kept applying for jobs on the surface. I wanted out. Not everybody came out every day. People got killed. So I kept applying and being denied, and finally I went up to the superintendent and I said, why am I not being promoted? Because I had been promoted underground. I was a supervisor at a very young age. And they said, well, Doug, you don't have an education. And I said, the guy that just got this job has an animal science degree. And you still know that I'm a better worker. He says, we know. But he has the degree. He's got the degree. So I said, okay, I'll go play the game. But I'm doing something I enjoy. I always enjoyed horticulture. And so I found a guy that's willing to pay me a fair amount of money to do something I really love.
So you graduated in what?
I graduated in 90 from NMSU. I was a late starter, 30 years old.
Horticulture, botany?
Horticulture. Yeah. Botany is more towards the theoretical, sitting in a lab, classifying plants. I wanted hands-on.
We had a great time interviewing the head of the Chile Institute.
Oh, yeah. Paul Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boston was great.
He is great. He's a great guy.
Labs in the greenhouses.
Yeah.
Excellent program, I thought. Just fantastic program.
Top of the line.
Yeah.
It really
Among
is.
the best. Any other questions before we... Thank you again. We appreciate it for taking the time and putting up with me. And
No problem at all. I enjoyed it.
Onward.
All right, yes. If you're disoriented, this is the way out.
Huh? So what?